There's no question that of all the Trumps, President Donald Trump is the one who gets the most public criticism. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Trump's second oldest child, Ivanka, has had her fair share of controversy. Here are some of Ivanka Trump's most cringe-worthy moments. In 2009, Ivanka published her first book, The Trump Card: Playing to Win in Work and Life, which is marketed as a business book for young women on how to achieve success in any field based upon what Ivanka has learned from her father and from her own experiences. But it seems like some of those young women weren't quite looking for her advice. The book received lukewarm reviews, which likely had something to do with the fact that it was full of arguably cringeworthy quotes, while some statements were simply confusing, like, "Success isn't something that happens to you, you happen to it." Others were criticized for being tone-deaf. For example, writing about harassment, Ivanka noted that it is never acceptable, but added, "At the same time, learn to figure out when a hoot or holler is indeed a form of harassment, or when it's merely a good-natured tease that you can give back in kind." She even appeared to allude to the idea of fake news long before her father ever did, writing, "Perception is more important than reality. If someone perceives something to be true, it is more important than if it is in fact true. This doesn't mean you should be duplicitous or deceitful, but don't go out of your way to correct a false assumption if it plays to your advantage." When Redbook published Ivanka Trump's guide to looking like a boss in 2012, it included a number of pretty standard fashion tips, but one did stand out. Ivanka told the outlet, "A timeless piece of jewelry like pearls or stud earrings has lasting value. I bought a vintage ring for $600 with my first paycheck. I plan to pass it down to my daughter." The problem is that Ivanka's first paycheck was largely made possible thanks to her family connections. Connections that also gave her the privilege to blow an entire paycheck on a piece of jewelry because other bills like rent were being taken care of. As the New York Times asked back in 1997, when a 15-year-old Ivanka was getting her start in modeling, was her success due to, quote, her cheekbones or her name? According to the article, it seemed like the latter. For one, the agency that signed her had a long-standing relationship with her father. Also, the owner of a competing agency called Company Management told the paper, "If Ivanka walked into my agency, I would not sign her as a model. I don't think she has that edge."
I model because I love to model, and that's really all there is to it.
Donald Trump has long been involved in beauty pageants and reality TV, and as Jezebel uncovered in 2013, he tried to merge the two in an effort to launch his daughter's own television career. According to sources who spoke with the outlet, Ivanka was gearing up to host a reality competition show called Trumptown Girls. Although the show never made it to air, Jezebel gained access to press materials and clips from the pilot episode, which was being produced for E!, and deduced that its main premise was pitting beautiful, leggy contestants and Trump's beauty pageants against the hardened real estate brokers of Trump International Realty. Apparently, teams of two women were tasked with competing to see who could earn the most commissions in any way possible. As the outlet noted, the clips portrayed the women as being intensely competitive and catty with one another, aware that working for Trump International means being replaced at any time with someone hotter. The show lacked the necessary star power to move forward, and soon enough, all mention of its existence was wiped from the internet before it ever saw the light of day. Donald Trump's relationship with his daughter has been heavily scrutinized over the years, as he has amassed what The Independent calls an unsettling record of comments.
Although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
While it's not often that Ivanka's part in the relationship is explored, in September 2017, she became the subject of great Twitter ridicule when it was revealed that she still refers to the president as Daddy. It was the president himself who, while inviting Ivanka to join him up on stage during a speech in North Dakota, told the crowd,
"She's so good. She wanted to make the trip. She said, 'Dad, can I go with you?' She actually said, 'Daddy, can I go with you?' I like that, right?"
Although Ivanka brushed off the comment, video of the proclamation soon began making the rounds on Twitter as it was shared by reporter David Mack, who quipped, "The replies to this tweet are why I re-downloaded Twitter." In addition to countless GIF replies showing people either shocked or throwing up, one user slammed Ivanka, saying, "So the moral of this story is that Ivanka doesn't have anything to do, so she wants to take a ride on the big airplane with her daddy." When Fox News asked Ivanka in February 2019 to comment on the Green New Deal pushed by congressional Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which would, quote, guarantee a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security to all people of the United States, the POTUS's daughter had quite the reaction. She said, "I don't think most Americans in their heart want to be given something. I've spent a lot of time traveling around this country over the last 4 years. People want to work for what they get. They want the ability to be able to secure a job. They want the ability to live in a country where there's the potential for upward mobility."
I think this idea of a guaranteed minimum is not something most people want.
Ivanka went on to point out that she believes the U.S. was doing better than it had in recent years. Ocasio-Cortez quickly took to Twitter to clap back, pointing out Ivanka's inadequacy to speak on behalf of the average American worker. She wrote, "As a person who actually worked for tips and hourly wages in my life, instead of having to learn about it secondhand, I can tell you that most people want to be paid enough to live. A living wage isn't a gift, it's a right. Workers are often paid far less than the value they create." Here's something you might not know about Ivanka. Her sister-in-law is none other than Karlie Kloss. The supermodel is married to Joshua Kushner, the brother of Ivanka's hubby, Jared Kushner. Kloss has rarely spoken publicly about their family connection. However, if you follow the president's daughter on social media, you'll know she's repeatedly gushed about being related to Kloss. The relationship appears to be painfully one-sided, according to Harper's Bazaar. In July 2018, for example, Trump gushed over Kloss's engagement announcement on Instagram, commenting, "I feel blessed to have you as a sister, Karlie, and look forward to the decades of happy memories we will create together as a family." In March 2019, she shared a video of herself watching Kloss host the season 17 premiere of Project Runway, in which she screamed with excitement, "Karlie, it's happening!" However, Kloss has never responded to any of these signs of affection, nor does she follow Ivanka on social media, as Express noted. In fact, during an interview with British Vogue, Kloss talked about being related to the president's family, saying, "It's been hard, but I choose to focus on the values that I share with my husband, and those are the same liberal values that I was raised with and that have guided me throughout my life."
I voted as a Democrat in 2016, and I plan to do the same in 2020.
When President Trump decided not to attend the 2019 Gridiron Club dinner, which got its start in 1885 and is described by the Washington Post as an exclusive gathering of politicians and media elite, he sent his daughter on his behalf. Traditionally, the evening is kicked off by the president, who shares some light remarks, before a prominent Democrat and Republican do the same, all leading up to a number of comedic sketches performed by top journalists. Clearly doing her best to stick to tradition, Ivanka tried to show off her sense of humor at the top of the evening, but according to the Washington Post, she bombed in front of 700 guests. Revealing that she had been asked to attend the dinner that same afternoon, she quipped, "The press seems to think it's ironic that I, born of great privilege, think people want to work for what they are given, as if being Donald Trump's daughter isn't the hardest job in the world." In May 2018, President Trump and his administration made headlines when they introduced a new policy that called for the separation of families who cross the U.S.-Mexican border illegally. Initially, Ivanka spoke out against family separation, but when Face the Nation asked her about the subject in December 2019, she tried to wash her hands of the issue. Host Margaret Brennan told her, "We went and looked, and Homeland Security says there's still around 900 children who remain separated from their families. Is that something that you continue to remain engaged on?" Rather than giving a definite yes or no response, Ivanka deflected responsibility, saying, "Obviously, I think everyone should be engaged, and the full force of the U.S. government is committed to this effort to border security, to protecting the most vulnerable."
Well, immigration is not part of my portfolio, obviously.
She then switched gears and went on somewhat of a tangent, talking about human trafficking and praising her father. She added, "That includes those being trafficked across our border, which this president has committed to countering and combating human trafficking in an incredibly comprehensive and aggressive way." The official White House website may have Ivanka listed as advisor to the president, but her role has been the topic of many questions and great debate since day one. And it's not just Americans who appear to be confused by her duties. When Ivanka appeared at the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan in July 2019, it was a whole slew of world leaders who publicly turned on her. In a video which was originally posted by the French presidential palace, Ivanka was shown trying to awkwardly take part in a conversation with the French president, the British British Prime Minister, the Canadian Prime Minister, and the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, and being repeatedly snubbed. The awkward exchange inspired a slew of memes online. Meanwhile, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, in part, "It may be shocking to some, but being someone's daughter actually isn't a career qualification." While Ivanka didn't comment on the awkwardness, she definitely must have felt it. As one body language expert summarized to Refinery29, she stood slightly outside the circle in a way that shows she felt unwelcomed. Also, the group didn't turn toward her to allow her in fully. In September 2019, Ivanka flew to Colombia, where she met with the country's president and vice president, inaugurated the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, and visited a Venezuelan migrant camp. First, a slight wardrobe malfunction stole the show and made the rounds on Twitter. Then media began to turn on her, with the New Zealand Herald dubbing the trip a mission of benign diplomacy, and GQ asking, "What about the immigrant detention camps here in the US?" Just a few months later, in February 2020, Ivanka's travels were criticized again when she joined the president on a state visit to India. While Vogue asked, "What exactly is Ivanka Trump doing in India?" The Huffington Post didn't hold back when it proclaimed, "Americans can't figure out what Ivanka Trump is doing in India, besides tagging along with dad on the taxpayer's dime." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite celebs are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.